And there's one more thing. So there are like pretty strange things which goes like recruiters are using like AI, like ATS format or something. So how does it categorize the CV that match according to the job description? Means what are the things which it look for ATS formats and all those?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what an ATS is first. An ATS is an applicant
Yeah.
tracking system. It's like a CRM, a
Mm-hmm.
customer relationship management platform. It's just from the other side. So the way an ATS works is a recruiter either feeds it a record manually, or they import it using like most ATSs have like an import feature for a LinkedIn profile, and they like hit this thing in their
Mm-hmm.
browser and it imports your your profile into the ATS. Sometimes there are feeds done from lists, and they're a little more manual, a little more automated. LinkedIn has this restriction though, like you're not supposed to do that kind of harvesting, right? Because you start to look like a bot, and they'll lock
Mm-hmm.
you out. I have done this. Don't do this. Um, but the the thing is that the categorization, like it won't assign you to a job role. ATSs. I haven't seen one yet that will do it anyway. What they do is they parse the fields, and they'll try and um, collect a list of skills, and that's it, right? So the the ATSs I work with one called Monotol. There are a bunch of others. Monotol's cheap, so I like it, but it does the same stuff. It's probably using the same technology underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they'll the recruiter will have to assign scores to the various skills you have. Now, the keyword thing matters, right? Because they'll all these products attempt to assign a score according to the compatibility with the job description that you put into the ATS. The scoring is usually vaguely useful, like kind of sort of correct. And then the recruiter
Mm-hmm.
will perhaps list candidates by priority and then start reaching out to them. That's if they're like a high touch, um, high end recruiter, like they'll actually reach out to people and ask for conversations. If they're the sort of body shop that we all get emails from, this is all automated. This is why
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you get, I get hit up for tech writing jobs like every day, because I was a tech writer in
Mm-hmm.
1996, 1995, right? I get hit up for engineer jobs all the time. It's very clear on my resume I'm not an engineer anymore, right? So they're really clumsy. This is another reason why, like, if you want to get into the field, if like want a good job, like bypass all that stuff. Applying for jobs, particularly entry level, means that you are in a very crowded collection of people, and if you apply for like 5,000 jobs, odds are one will hit. But while you were applying for 5,000 jobs, you could have
Damn.
been building relationships in the community and making a name for yourself, making friends. We hire our friends any chance we get.
Ah,
And not all my friends have been in the
all
business a
right.
long time. I have friends who are brand new, and they didn't come to me through, I found them on LinkedIn mostly, or I found them in meetings of various kinds of groups that I'm part of. That's the best way to do it. And I think there's a very healthy movement in in the cybersecurity labor market, which is like where you are, where the people I
Mm-hmm.
recruit from are, away from just like applying for jobs and hoping for the best, to
Mm-hmm.
to making content. And content, we can talk about that too. What does that mean? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the whole recruiting process is completely broken, and I don't see how it just doesn't seem to get any better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next question is like somewhere around regarding the this one key desired skills itself. So how would you refer? Means as it like how can someone there are like so what I can say is like there are like some other skills which candidate forgets to mention it. So how should they be mentioning that? Means how should they be showcasing that to the recruiter? So they are like
Um,
unwritten skills or unwritten things which are not expressed via resume. So how can someone that be so how can those skills should be showcased?
Well, there are keywords because keywords matter if you want to be found. And so make sure that you use keywords liberally. And specifically on LinkedIn, there's the skills section and there's license and certifications. Make sure that you have that filled in, associated with whatever jobs you've had, with education, things like that. So make sure that those are there because, again, like recruiters are trying to find you. Help them. It's weird that I see so many LinkedIn profiles that aren't filled in. Like they're just not done. I run into people, for example, I only recruit people who speak English because my clients speak English and my Spanish is rotten. I've been in and out of Mexico. I've been in back and forth between Mexico and the United States for 14 years or something, and it's still terrible. But the point is that I still see profiles of people who are fluent in English, who don't put the English language competency in their LinkedIn. Or there are other people who like put it in there and they're lying. But make sure you put it in there. Make sure that you put in things with which you have hands-on experience. That's another thing. Like if you really want to peeve off someone who let's avoid that like explicit flag. I'm gonna keep it G-rated. If you want to make somebody mad, put something in your profile that you're only aware of. Like one of the worst things you can do is include things in your profile because you think they will get you an interview. Because the worst thing that happens, you get the interview.
Okay.
And then the interviewer is like, you don't know this stuff. Why are you wasting my time? So just make sure it's true, right? And that you've actually used the thing. There are things like there's the other thing is like certifications like the NSE 1234 do not require that you have worked with Fortinet products. I just found this out yesterday. Like Luis, who works for me, who's new, like I gave him an entry level job in security, right? For reasons that have to do with location and cost. He lives in my town. He's expensive, and it turns out he's actually really brilliant, like really brilliant. If you're listening to this, Luis, don't let this go to your head. But he's brilliant, and he's good company. But he's gone through the Fortinet certs, and I found out yesterday, like you don't actually have to use the product to get these things. And so if I were to interview him as a Fortinet engineer, I'd be like, if I didn't know this, I'd be like, why are you wasting my time? You haven't actually touched the product. I can't use you on this stuff. I need somebody, my clients need somebody who's worked with the tech. So be really careful about not putting things in that you don't actually have hands-on experience yet. And worse yet, like if all you know is the name, like also don't list things like TCP/IP. Like we know you're supposed to know TCP/IP. But if you've written posts about that, right? If you've posted questions about like, how important is RFC 1918 for, in this context? For RFC 1918, by the way, is something everybody should know. Something like a third of the people I interview don't know what it is. It's the thing that defines internal address spaces, non-routable address spaces that were created when we, started using NAT. More or less. Read it. It's really good. But the point is that if it's not something you work with and it's not something that sort of has practical value to the person who's going to hire you, like you should probably leave it out. Posts are really important. Articles are great in LinkedIn because they kind of live forever. Like posts sort of like fade away. But you can also pick certain posts to be featured in your profile. When I go to a profile, I look at the history and I look at the skills. But if somebody has articles, even if they haven't done the work, if they've written about it, they've done a little research, maybe they've written like 3 paragraphs. That tells me that they are willing to take the initiative to publish something on a topic. I love that stuff.
Yep. And the other one is like how to get connected with the recruiter. Means who has posted about the role, and there's like how can someone be if they get no response from the recruiter? How can that be a challenge? Means what are the ways they can be able to connect with the recruiter?
There are a million recruiters for starters. The ones that know security are pretty rare. Make friends with them.
Yeah.
It's really like it's that. It's like
And
ask,
what
hey,
if?
yeah, you can
Mhm.
ask like, hey, how can I help? Are you having trouble finding anybody for
Okay.
this role? I have friends. And others just be
Hmm.
humble and say like, I know I'm probably not qualified. Recruiters love to
Yeah.
hear that. Like because it's like, oh, like you're not going to
What?
BS me. Like these are my qualifications. If they don't fit, maybe I know somebody. Because we're all working networks. We're all trying to find people from time to time, and sometimes like you're just out, like you checked everybody in, and your network is tapped,
Hmm.
and you're still looking, right? But just offer to help people. You can offer to help connect people to people in your network, and there's no reason that
Hmm.
like somebody
Hmm.
like it's so easy to build a network, and when it's meaningful, you have conversations. Know people that
Yeah.
they know. I will if somebody has like zero
Hmm.
contacts in their LinkedIn, I assume that it's
Hmm.
fake, and I'll block it. Don't reach out to me if you have no contacts. Just don't. Um, but if I see you, but if somebody reaches out to me and I see they have some activity, particularly if they're interacting
Hmm.
with people I know, yeah, I'll connect with them. And if they say I want a
Hmm.
conversation, like, can I have 15 minutes? Like, I'll talk to anybody in the world for 15 minutes. I mean, literally anywhere in the world.
Okay.
I talk to people in Mexico and the United States, sure, but I've been talking to people in like Karachi, and I talked to a guy in Benin a few weeks ago. Brilliant. I don't know when I'm going to do business with him, but it means that, I know somebody in Benin who does endpoint security and he's good, right? And I will help
Yeah.
those people no matter what, as much to whatever extent I can. And good recruiters are
Hmm.
in this because they love helping people. It's actually not that
Hmm.
lucrative, by the way. Recruiters are not paid. They're paid well, but not paid as well as you think.
All right. So next one will be like, what about the cover letters? How important they are? I mean, what kind of importance they play in the help of getting a job?
I'm sorry. What does what play?
Cover letters.
Oh, cover letters.
How what's the role? Yep.
I kind of want a prop here, which is an envelope. So picture an envelope, like a paper one. It's got
Hmm.
glue on it. It used to
Hmm.
like lick it, and then you cut your tongue, and it would taste bad, right? There were these things called envelopes, right? Now we just throw them out. But a
Hmm.
cover letter was the letter that you put with your resume, and it would say, to whom it may concern, or hiring manager, or human resources
Okay.
person, or whatever. Enclosed, please find my resume um,
Hmm.
for blah job. Please hand this to the hiring manager, or whatever.
Hmm.
It was a cover letter because it was a cover for the resume, and it was supposed to say who it goes
Okay.
to. And what happened was people would say, well, you got this letter, you might as well do something with it. Put a little pitch in it, like explain who you are.
Hmm.
And people would take the cover letter and go, oh, it's for Sally in IT. Cover letter. Okay, here's his resume. I mean, it would literally throw
All
it out. But
right.
I mean, but that's what a cover letter is for, and that's why it's called a cover letter. Lesson here: think about the words
Yeah.
and think about their origins. And remember, a lot of
Hmm.
these are obsolete. I think the last time I used an actual cover letter was like 20 years ago. Um,
Okay.
but um, so that's the thing. Now, what I do like about cover letters, sometimes I've seen cover letters that just knock me out because it's an opportunity to show your writing. Now, these days, I would rather see your writing online. I'd rather see a blog. I'd like to see stuff on
Hmm.
GitHub.
Hmm.
I would like to see posts on LinkedIn. Um, one of the
Hmm.
best ways to distinguish yourself from everybody else is to publish research of some kind. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not talking about
All
like
right.
your master's thesis or doctoral dissertation or like
Hmm.
something that's going to be featured in whatever magazine. I'm talking about like write a few paragraphs about something you learned or write about questions you have. and how you're exploring them. And that I think is much more interesting. And you can put that in the resume. You can put links to that in your LinkedIn profile. You can post them on your profile,
Okay.
stuff like that. But like cover letter, man, attached please, fine. Thank you very much.
As in, like, that plays a pretty much significant role for getting up to the proper person. You mean to say that one?
If
And that way, that way.
if you have your resume in an envelope with a stamp on it, yeah. But aside from that, I just like if they're asking for a cover letter, it's because they lack imagination and because their ATS requires them. I mean, sometimes it's just another field, and if it's required, it doesn't mean it gets used.
Mhm.
Like there's an enormous amount of waste in the world, and we're especially prone to that in recruiting and job hunting. And that's the key is like if you just keep doing stuff, law of the odds are that eventually you will get something. But if it takes you like all your time for a year to do it, like you could have been doing something else. I'm lazy. I want to get the result. Like I want the result now with minimal effort. Like that is efficiency. Be efficient.
Okay. Even I'm facing some kind of issues. So there are like a lot of companies. So there are like a lot of recruitment agencies. How means is it a viable option to go along through them, or should we be trying from ourselves? Means how how they are helpful?
You mean like hiring
Getting
somebody
in
to
the
shop you the
job.
market? I'm not. What kind of agency are you thinking about?
The recruitment agencies. So there are like a couple of recruitment agencies which helps up.
Yeah. So they're external recruiters or internal recruiters. The difference is really an internal recruiter is recruiting for one company, an external recruiter is recruiting usually for many companies. They're the same thing. Now, internal recruiters are likely to have relationships with the hiring managers. A lot of the time, they're not good relationships. It's like internal recruiters and hiring managers. And sorry if you're an internal recruiter, if you don't like this, like do a better job. Sorry, guys. But like they oftentimes don't know the business's needs and how they work. They're also not as paid as well. It's a more stable job, supposedly, than external recruiters. So external recruiters have the potential to make a lot more money. Their income is also a lot less stable. I am an external recruiter for the most part. I also recruit for me. So I'm in both roles. But most of the recruiting I do when I do it, I'm an external recruiter. What's the difference is I'm hungrier. Right? I mean, internal recruiter gets salary. I don't get a salary. I get paid when my clients pay me when I deliver value. So that's one of the differences. The other thing is that external recruiters tend to be better networked. They know other recruiters, they know more candidates, they know more companies. And an external recruiter might be able to say, like, I don't have you for this one. I say this all the time. Like, in fact, anytime I interview somebody, one of the first things I say is, you, sir or madam or whatever, are probably not going to get this job. I don't know anything about them yet, but what I've read. I haven't done the interview, but I say, you are probably not going to get this job. I am assessing you. I'm interviewing you for this job and all the others that I haven't got yet for the rest of my career indoors. I make it explicit. I'm saying it. They're doing the same thing. They're just trying to be explicit about it. So external recruiters have certain advantages, but a lot of the time what you have to do is get through the external recruiter as a gatekeeper and a finder. More of a gatekeeper is the internal recruiter who's filtering you. A lot of the time doesn't give it who they're just doing their job. And then you get to the hiring manager. But they're all valuable. So.
All right. There's one more thing, kind of referral means at what extent they help us to get with the job. Referrals and any kind of connections. Yep.
Yeah, they're vital. Everybody knows somebody who's looking for somebody, and they're useful for two reasons. One is just being able to locate you, and the other is vouching for your character. The stuff that like most of the things that I need in an employee are not objective. I mean, this gets back to the question: what do I put in my LinkedIn profile, on my resume? Well,
Mm-hmm.
there's some things that will like catch when it comes to resume parsing and the algorithms and stuff, and then there are other things that might catch my eye, I might see. Right? I mean, there are things like have a picture for God's sake in your LinkedIn profile, and don't let it be from your dating profile, and don't have your kids in it. Oh my God! Yeah. I mean, I've seen some weird stuff, but do have one, and make sure it's professional. Like spend a little dough. Like one of the best
Yeah.
moves I ever made. I went to a photographer and I laid out like 800 pesos, which he was like $50. Probably pay a few hundred
Oh, damn.
in UK. But do that and get a professional looking profile photo, and people will go for that. It tells you two things. One, this person understands how the game is played, and the other is, I think I might like them. Like we all want to do business with people we like. Even recruiters, scum of the earth, terrible people, blockers. No, they're good people, and they want to work with good people, even if it's just in initial stages. And if you have a photograph that looks professional, that maybe it's clear that you spent a little money on it, that you understand and that you care about your professional image, that matters a lot. But ultimately, like anytime I have somebody I can check with, it makes a decision easier for me. Because recruiters are always just trying to make decisions. Do I look at this resume? Do I look at it closely? Right. Do I interview them? Do I do another interview with them? Do I refer them to my client?
Okay.
My client comes back and says, this person isn't qualified. Why are you sending it to me? Do I advocate for this person? These are decisions that get made all the way through until do I send this person an offer letter? Do I keep them? Do I keep keeping them? So you're always try to help somebody make a decision that's in your favor. And one of the best ways I can make the decision is to reach out to somebody who somebody's connected with in LinkedIn and say, hey, John, like, I know you're connected to this person. They mentioned you. Do you know them? Or are you just connected to them? I'm going to ask that, by the way. Have real, I mean, a lot of my contacts are just like, they just look interesting. I'm going to send them a connection request. But there are plenty of people in my network that know me and know me well. Another thing that I know you didn't ask about this, but is really important. Recommendations. LinkedIn has a recommendation section. Get them from everyone that you have worked with or studied with that could have something nice to say about you. If they don't like you, don't ask.
Okay.
But this can include colleagues. It can be people you went to school with. It could include professors. You don't necessarily have to have worked with them. But what I have done is I have about like 85 or something of them. I got a lot. They go back like 15 years. I will take that list, convert it to a Word file, like copy and paste it, edit out the ones that have typos, because like not everybody who recommended me wrote well. I kept them all. Right?
Yeah.
But some of them are just like, they just don't make sense. So I delete those and I attach that to my resume. And if you have 10 or more of those, that's impressive. And then I can reach out to those people and say, do you still think he's smart? Would you still work with her? Right? That kind of stuff.